Today we welcome back Terry Byrne, our volunteer historian at St. Joe's, who's going to be showing us some of the artifacts he's discovered in our parish over the years. So, over the past number of years, Terry, you've been going through the church to try to find artifacts from our history. What prompted you to do this?
Well, Chris, when I was looking for research information, documents and that, I was going through the tunnels that stretch the length of the church. And I came across some plaster plaques. And these plaster plaques were hidden in the tunnels, covered with black soot. And I thought, I wonder how many more items are buried or hidden somewhere in the church. And that gave rise to after the book was written, to me searching the church for hidden treasures. This is an example of the plaster plaque. We have 7 of these that they used to be in the third church in the 1930s. I do not know yet whether or not they were also in the second church. But these were covered with soot. I brought them home, cleaned them all up, brought them back, and we put them up in the library.
So are these plaques on display somewhere where parishioners can see them at the moment?
Well, they were in the library until such time as that room actually became a library. So there was no longer room on the walls to retain them there. So what I did was I had Dan Hanfield made 7 boxes for them. And now they're stored in the ventilation shaft room in individual boxes until such time as we can find an appropriate spot for them.
So, over the years, what else have you discovered?
Well, another thing I found in the tunnels was this picture of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now, and it was in this frame, but the frame was sort of worn, and the picture had a lot of water damage on it. So I took the frame home and took it apart, and behind it was newspapers from the 1880s. So I thought maybe this picture is worth preserving. So what I ended up doing was I refinished the frame. I put matting around the photo to not show the water damage that was apparent on the edges of the picture. And I put it back up, and I left the articles, newspaper articles from the 1880s, in behind the picture.
Now, I understand that you made a rather significant discovery recently. Would you maybe tell us about that?
Yes. About 4 or 5 years ago, a gentleman approached me and said he had a key to an old St. Joseph's tabernacle. And I had no idea where that key fitted. It was only about 6 months ago I discovered the old tabernacle from the second church that was buried behind some boxes in the organ vent room. Now, I'll just show you here. This here is the front of the tabernacle. It weighs about 60 pounds, so I'm not going to lift it for you. And you can see that the key locket has been changed. So the key that this person was trying to give back to the church would no longer fit in there because it went missing. The back of this tabernacle also had a door, this one here, and people who were working in the rectory, priests, could open up this door and slide chalices with hosts in them to be inside the tabernacle during Mass. It was in the passageway between the front door of the tabernacle and the back door. There was a 3-foot shaft, metal black shaft. And in that we discovered 2 pieces of cardboard. The 2 pieces of cardboard had over 200 names on it of people who were part of the St. Joe's Tabernacle Society in 1930. What we've done is we've taken the cardboard sheets and put them in frames. Now the problem is, you have to understand the writing on the cardboard, and it's it's very difficult for people to identify the names very quickly on this sheet. So what we're doing is we're going to put these names in alphabetical order so people can see them in a typed format.
So you've also, I guess, continued to discover items, although I think that some of the ones you've shown us right now are really quite remarkable. What are some of the other things you've seen and discovered in terms of the parish's history through artifacts?
Well, one of the things that we found, Chris, were the old communion gates in the church. When the church was taken, when the marble communion rail was taken down, these communion gates that were part of it were put in storage. My thinking is there's no point putting them in storage. We should be making them available for people to see and remember back in time that these were an integral part of our church. Now they need to be cleaned up. They're brass and they're very, very heavy. And they'll be always located in this corner here, and they're locked against the walls. But once the brass is all cleaned up on them, they should be very interesting to look at. And a good reminder of our history.
So while we're here, can you tell me a little bit about how we obtained these two display cases that we have in the entrance of our church?
These came from the Ottawa Airport Authority when the Ottawa Airport Authority was improving the airport. And they asked us if we wanted these showcased. Now my brother Gary, who was the executive director at the time, this was back in about 2003, 2004, well, it said yes. He didn't know what he was going to use them for, but he said yes. And we found out that they would be appropriate to store some of our artifacts. Now, in some of these showcases, you'll find a silver tray like this one here, and it comes from the St. Joseph's Tabernacle Society Mission Fund, and it's dated 1930, and it's pure silver. But we also have other articles that were donated to the church back in the early part of the 1900s, right through to 1950s. It was really an honor to donate items to the church. Some of the donated items include patens, chimes, candle holders, etc. We even have holy water fountains in marble that are at the entrance to the church. So these are all part of items that were donated to the church. My mission is to make sure that those people who donated these items in honor of somebody is not lost. So now I'm trying to find out who donated them and who are they being honored by.
So to finalize our discussion today, are you prepared to provide us with maybe another story, another anecdote from our parish?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I thought I'd do an amusing one today. And that was, there was a time when there was an Oblate priest who came to St. Joe's with his dog. And his dog was very friendly. And the dog would wander around without a leash on it. And it would greet parishioners and people in the church. This one day, the CWL, which was very prominent at the time, had 400 to 500 members in it. This is back in the 50s, 60s. Were putting on a dessert and coffee function in the church hall. Well, the dog wandered down there, and one of the women took a broom to it to try to get him out of the hall. But the dog would have no part of it. In fact, the dog got up on one of the tables and relieved himself on some of the desserts. Mind you, it probably wasn't funny at the time, but I find it quite humorous today.
Well, it certainly is. I have to say we have clearly a rich history as a parish. We've seen that in artifacts, and we always see that as well through your anecdotes, Terry. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Chris.